You also, for the book, compiled a database of successfully thwarted or prevented terrorist attacks. What did you learn from studying those incidents?
I found really two major points. One is that I believe that the nature of the domestic terrorism threat in the United States today is actually more serious, more severe than many believe it is, especially when we consider that there are a number of plots that have been thwarted since 9/11 from domestic right-wing or other sorts of organizations. It's certainly not just international terrorist groups. It's certainly not just Muslim groups. That's the nature of the threat.
Right.
But then the most important question I thought that we need to look at is, how are these threats thwarted? How do we stop these things from happening? And here I found that for the most part, the tools and techniques that are used to stop these would-be terrorists are usually the very similar, the same tools and techniques that law enforcement has been using for many years. It's tips from the public, it's undercover officers, it's the use of informants. It's not so much, when we're talking domestically, Homeland Security threats, it's not so much the national intelligence assets such as spies overseas or satellites or even signals intelligence efforts.
And so over the course of the last year, there were some intelligence leaks that I think many Americans were shocked about the scope of the domestic electronic surveillance that's going on. What did you find about the role of that type of electronic surveillance in stopping terrorist attacks?
I think that what we're finding is that the domestic plots that have been foiled, I found over 100 domestic terrorism plots that have been prevented since 9/11. At least from what I can tell and from what we've seen from a number of the official studies into the National Security Agency programs, for instance, we aren't finding that it's that sort of program that stops domestic plots and Homeland Security plots. Those sorts of programs may certainly be effective overseas. We don't have the information on that, but domestically it's mostly this much sort of lower level, much more of a law enforcement approach that seems to be effective.